Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It's Thursday, getting towards the weekend. I hope the week is going well wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. Plenty to talk about today. We'll talk about Mikel Arteta and those contract talks in line to become one of the best paid managers in the Premier League. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about just general transfer chit chat doing the rounds. Youssouf Fofana being linked once again with a move to Arsenal by the French media. Got plenty of questions and comments from you guys as well. So we'll get stuck into that in a second. But first of all, just to flag up, I'm sitting down with Team News and Ticks for our new weekly sort of transfer roundup show we started last week. Thanks so much for all of the kind comments about that. And we're going to be back doing it again. It's going to go out tomorrow morning, but because we're in the joys of half term and tomorrow I am taking my kids to Harry Potter World, I have to pre-record it today, and we're doing that later on this afternoon, about 1 o'clock UK time. So by the time you watch this, if you're one of the first people watching it and you want to get involved in that show, then get down below and put your questions, your comments, your opinions down in the comments box. Make sure you sort of flag it up as being for the Team News and Ticks show, and we will answer some of those questions. So anything you want to talk about, mainly about transfers, because that's what the show is. It's a bit of a sort of transfer roundup type thing. Get down below and put them in the comments. Thank you very much. Right, let's get started, shall we? We'll start with the news doing the rounds at the moment about Mikel Arteta. John Cross over at the Daily Mirror, Sammy Mockbell as well at the Daily Mail, reporting yesterday that these contract talks with Mikel Arteta, they aren't yet ongoing, but will be very, very soon. As I said, once he gets back from holiday and over in Spain, then I'm sure those contract talks are going to start pretty quickly. But both Sammy and John reporting that Mikel is in line to become one of the best paid managers in the Premier League, getting towards the sort of Pep Guardiola level of wages. Not as high as Pep, obviously, but getting up towards that. That certainly sparked quite a bit of debate that I've seen since those stories went out. Look, first of all, Arsenal need to get Mikel Arteta tied down to a new contract 100%. I don't think there's going to be an issue. As I've spoken about before, Mikel Arteta is absolutely delighted with the work that's being done at Arsenal. He's very happy here. Arsenal were understandably very, very happy with the work that Mikel Arteta is doing. And you just have to look at the improvement and the trajectory the club have been on since Mikel Arteta has arrived, and you can understand why. And you can just see it on the pitch at the moment. Yes, he's yet to add to that FA Cup that he won 6 months after arriving. And that is the big goal now. Obviously, everything is set up for Arsenal to win trophies now. But just because he hasn't won a trophy yet since that FA Cup does not mean, oh, he's doing a bad job or anything like that. It's mad to even suggest that. You just look at the work that's been done. Look at where Arsenal are now. Look at the journey they've been on. Look at how far they've come. Look at how well set up they are now to really attack the biggest of trophies. And it just shows the fantastic work that Mikel Arteta has done. The next challenge that he now has, obviously, is winning those trophies. I think the work that's gone on the last few years have all been set up to get Arsenal to this point, to the point that they are now. And as he said himself at the end of the game against Everton, and when he repeated it over at the Globe Soccer Awards, when he picked up his award as best Premier League manager, he said, look, now it's time to win. Win, win, win. Don't be satisfied with where we are. He's definitely not satisfied. He knows that the challenge now is to win. And I'm not surprised he's going to be one of the Premier League's highest earners with this new deal when it is signed, and I do expect it will be signed. I think, he's one of the longest serving managers in the Premier League now. You look at the managerial market as it is now. Look at what's going on with Chelsea. You know, they're turning to Enzo Maresco from Leicester. You look at Manchester United potentially. You know, we'll see what happens with Ten Hag, but the managers they've been talking to potentially replace him if they do make a change. You got like Kieran McKenna at Ipswich Town, and the manager. I mean, Vincent Kompany's just gone to Bayern Munich. There is not this huge sort of market at the moment for managers, and Mikel Arteta is right at the top of it. He could walk to pretty much any single club. Now, I can guarantee that if Mikel Arteta was available, all of the top clubs, if they needed a new manager, they would be banging on Mikel Arteta's door asking him. So I'm not surprised he's in line to be one of the highest paid managers in the Premier League, even though he's yet to win a major trophy since that FA Cup. And I think he's worth every penny for Arsenal. Where they are now, if anything went wrong with these contract talks and Arteta would leave, it would set Arsenal back absolutely massively. It would, whatever your feelings. And I know not everyone's a massive supporter of Mikel Arteta. And look, football's about opinion. I get that. And we've all got different opinions. I don't quite understand it in terms of this because I can just see the amazing work that Arteta's doing. But I get it. Other people don't agree. But I still, if he were to go, the the fallout from it would just be absolutely massive. It would set Arsenal back so far. And so, no, I think he's worth absolutely every penny. And I'm sure it will be done. Love to get your views on it, of course. I'm sure there'll be some that disagree. And let me know in the comments below why you think Arsenal shouldn't be handing Mikel Arteta a big new contract. I'm sure plenty will be, yes, do it, like me. Just get it done. And now let's see the next challenge with the facing Mikel Arteta, and that is winning trophies. And I'm so convinced it is going to happen. Okay, moving on. Cedric Suarez has been speaking. Obviously, Cedric now, he's actually, I was going to say no longer an Arsenal player. He is an Arsenal player at the moment until his contract runs out, which will be at the end of July. But he's on the lookout for a new club. He's leaving. We know that. He already did his big sort of emotional goodbye social media posts that all the players have been doing. He's been sitting down with Pedro Pinto and been talking on the One Para One podcast, and he said some interesting stuff about Arsenal that I thought was quite interesting to share. First of all, we talked about the season as a whole, and he said, look, I think we ended up having an excellent season. We worked hard in all aspects, improved in some areas that perhaps we were lacking last year at certain moments. The team was more mature, players are more experienced, the group continues to be excellent, and that, of course, helps in many aspects. Arsenal have been growing year after year. There is a connection with the fans, which might be closer than ever before, and that sometimes makes a difference. Playing for a big club in England, a club like Arsenal, is fascinating, and it's an incredible feeling. Wherever you go in the world, there are Arsenal fans. It's an unbelievable thing. That Cedric, understandably enjoyed his time at Arsenal. He was very well paid, got 4 years at Arsenal, and had a very good time, even though he didn't play too much. I don't blame him for not going earlier. Why would you? Got this huge contract, really nice contract at Arsenal. You're at a top club. You're enjoying yourself. Why would you really look to move on? We can all have our say on why he was given such a big contract in the first place. But he was a very popular player behind the scenes. He did a lot behind the scenes in training. He always played to the highest possible standard he could. And Mikel Arteta puts a big deal on that because he knows how important training is. And you talk to Arteta about Cedric and he'll have nothing but good things to say about him. In terms of what Cedric does now, I know there's interest in him and there has been widespread interest in him in the last couple of years, but he's decided to stay. Sport in Lisbon, big clubs in Portugal, all been sort of monitoring and for a while now. Whether they actually push the boat out and get him, we'll wait and see. There's definitely interest in Turkey. Sevilla have been watching him as well and have liked him for a couple of years. So we'll wait and see what his next move is. He says, right now, I'm very focused on my career. I want to keep playing for many more years. My goal now is to find the right team where I can continue to be competitive, be on the field, and do what I love most. Now it's about getting together with my family, my agent, analysing what will be on the table for the next season. Everything is a bit up in the air. I don't have any certainties yet, but I will analyse, understand where the best solution for me is to continue my career. That's what I'm going to focus on. I hope he gets a decent move, Cedric, and he can have a decent end to his career. He hasn't played too much football, obviously, in the last 4 years. I'm sure he'll probably want to fancy doing a fair bit of that now before he calls time on what's been a very successful career when you look at it. High level, playing for big clubs, won himself European Championships with Portugal. So don't think he'll have too many complaints when he does call time on his career, but not ready to do that just yet. Okay, moving on. Wanted to talk a little bit about Gabriel Martinelli. There's a comment here from Terry. Says Martinelli suffered from the absence of a regular left back behind him. Saka had Ben all season. Timber will help Martinelli. And it follows on. Myself and James Bench, we sat down, we did our Inside Arsenal Extra Time yesterday, and we spoke about Martinelli and how, both of us actually are very, very confident that we're going to see Martinelli back towards his best next season. Obviously, he had a pretty disappointing season overall this year, certainly considering the sort of standards he set the year before that. But I think this is a really good point from Terry, and it shouldn't be underestimated how the right-hand side of Arsenal's attack was so constant. You got Saka, Odegaard, and you got Ben White, and that was there the season before that. Everyone knew each other. You think over to the other side for Martinelli, the year before he had Granit Xhaka playing as a left 8, and he had Zinchenko playing behind him, and it was just a given. That left-hand side, it was really settled. This year, it's completely different in terms of your left back. Obviously, started off with Timber. He got injured. And then you're flitting between Kivior, Tomiyasu, all the changes. Zinchenko from time to time. There's no Granit Xhaka this season as that left 8 role. And you started off with Kai Havertz, and then you'd have Declan Rice playing there, or sometimes you'd have Emil Smith-Rowe, and there was so much chopping and changing down that left-hand side. And you have to take that into account when you look at Gabriel Martinelli's form. last season. It must have been so difficult for him to sort of adjust, to get used to the way Arsenal are playing, because it was just completely opposite to what he'd been used to. And I'm not using that as an excuse for Martinelli. If you're a very top level player, you have to adjust and still perform at a decent standard. Leandro Trossard came in and still performed at a decent standard when he played over on that left-hand side at times, still scored some big goals. And I'm sure Martinelli will sort of look back at it this season and he'll know he didn't quite hit the heights that he could have done. But I do think there's certainly some, reasons for that, not excuses, but certainly reasons for that I think we all have to take into account. And I'm convinced that Martinelli will be bang on it again next season, and we'll see a much more improved Martinelli in the final third, much more ruthless finishing, much more confident. That's just what he needs. He just needs a confidence boot. If he can have a good summer, good pre-season, sure, he'll be bang on it at the start of next season. I'm definitely not ready to start writing off Gabriel Martinelli just yet. Okay, before we move on to some of your questions and comments, just quickly on Youssouf Fofana, who's a player I always see in the comments. Lots of you are mentioning him when you're talking about Arsenal midfield options. Heavily linked with Arsenal for a while now. Being linked with Arsenal again today by L'Equipe over in France, reporting not just Arsenal, as a few clubs. I can't remember the other ones. I think United was one, maybe Chelsea, Paris Saint-Germain as well, because it's very widely expected that Fofana is going to be leaving Monaco this season. Monaco have already kind of admitted that publicly, that he is one of the players who could well leave. He's only got a year left in his contract. And he's 25 now and he wants to move on and look elsewhere in his career. Arsenal are looking for a player in this position. I haven't seen enough of Fofana really to give my opinion on whether he would be a really decent signing for Arsenal. Obviously, he had that really good performance in the Emirates Cup against Arsenal last season that caught everyone's eye because he was really, really impressive that day at the Emirates. But sort of other than that, I've just not seen enough of Fofana to really know whether he would be the guy who would come in and take Arsenal to the next level in midfield. And when you look at what Arsenal are probably going to do this summer, the midfield signing is the one that's really going to come in and be expected to raise the level of the team. I think the other signings might well be ones that come in and improve the squad and make the squad a lot stronger and make the options that Mikel Arteta has off the bench or to rotate stronger. But I think that one area in midfield is the one that is going to probably be aimed at coming in and raising the level of the starting 11 immediately. Is Fofana that guy? I just don't know. I haven't seen enough of him, but I know lots of you like him. We'll have to wait and see how this one progresses. Like I said, I haven't heard it myself in terms that there's definite interest from Arsenal there and they're going to go out and try and sign Youssouf Fofana this summer. But it's a name that continues to do the rounds, and it's a name once again over in France this morning that is being linked with a move to Arsenal. Chido, I was going to say Chido Obi Martin, but I think I've been saying it wrong the whole time, or there's been a sudden switch because now Arsenal are calling him Chido Martin Obi and others are calling him Chido Martin Obi. I'm not sure where that switched. I just always had Chido Obi Martin in my head, but the name seems to have switched. But anyway, whatever happened, he had a very good day yesterday at the 17's World Cup for Denmark, scored a late equaliser in their game against Czech to make it 1-1 and take the game to penalties. He then scored in the penalty shootout, and Denmark went through into the semi-finals where they will be joining England. They're not playing each other in the semi-finals. England have got Italy. I can't remember who Denmark have got in the other semi-final, but if both teams get through, we could well have Denmark versus England in the final, which would be Chido Martin Obi versus Ethan Nwaneri, of course. A good day for Chido, following on for the good day that Ethan had with England a couple of days earlier. Right, some questions and comments now before we wrap this thing up. Hi, Charles, says Harley, says, love the show. Now that Mbappe is more or less confirmed to go to Real Madrid, there could be an opportunity in the market to sign one of their superstars like we did with Ozil when they signed Bale. Given this and our squad demands, I would love to see us looking to Rodrigo, Tchouaméni or Camavinga. Do you think there is a chance this could happen? And who would you try to sign? For me, Rodrigo would be the perfect one to complete our front line. Yeah, look, Rodrigo certainly ticks an awful lot of the boxes. There's been a bit of talk, hasn't there, in the last couple of days? I think he gave an interview to The Zone where he suggested maybe that anything could happen in the transfer window, but I think that's quickly been dismissed by his camp as being sort of taken out of context, and that he is absolutely going to stay at Real Madrid, whatever happens this summer. Ultimately, I suppose it's up to Real Madrid. If players are going to be put up for sale, they're going to invest an awful lot of money in Kylian Mbappe, not in terms of transfer fee, obviously, but other money that is going to go into making that deal possible. Would they need to sell? potentially so. I'd be very surprised if they let Rodrigo go though, for me. But he would be absolutely perfect. And the two players you mentioned there as well, Tchouaméni and Camavinga, I wouldn't turn my nose up at either. But I think when you look at the project that Madrid are doing and adding Mbappe to it's going to be really, really scary because they have hoovered up some of the best young talent, not just in European football, in world football over the last couple of seasons. And they've been kind of doing it all the time without an out goal scorer, but still performing, still get themselves to the Champions League final like they are this season. But you suddenly add Mbappe into that mix, and that becomes an absolute frightening prospect of a team with Jude Bellingham behind him as well. It's been some really good squad building from Real Madrid, and Mbappe seems to be the sort of icing that they're going to put on the cake of that. And look, I'd love to sign one of those guys. I don't see it happening though. I think they're going to try and keep them all together, to be honest with you. Here's a couple of responses to the Thomas Partey chat we were having yesterday when I valued him at 10 to 15 million, and lots of you have got absolutely mad at that. I still stand by it, I have to say. And it's not because of talking about his footballing ability. I'm just saying, and you've got to be realistic when it comes to football. You really do, especially with the transfer market as it is at the moment and the lack of money that there is doing the rounds. Obviously, it can change if someone from Saudi comes in and just offers stupid money for a player. But whether that happened this summer, I don't know. But when you look at Thomas, you look at his injury record, which is awful. He's coming off the back of a season where he's just not played basically until the last couple of games of the season. Got 1 year left in his contract. He's now in his 30s and he's on massive wages, £200,000 a week, give or take, which are going to prevent a lot of clubs from being able to go near him if he wants to carry on those wage bills. Add all that up together, and that's why I think 10 or 15 million pounds is a realistic sort of number for Thomas Partey. And I wouldn't be surprised if I'm right if that was to happen, if that was to go. I just can't see anyone else offering any more money than that. But anyway, look, a couple of replies here from Snice6941 says, I won't sell Partey on the cheap. Where can you get a 10 million reserve player of his level? I'd rather keep him unless over 25 million. Trevor says 10 to 15 million. What's the point of selling? He's worth more keeping at the club for his last year and then letting him go on a free. He plays ahead of Jorginho. Now, this is the sort of position that I'm in when it comes to Thomas. If it is just going to be 10 or 15 million, I don't know. Like I said, something from Saudi could come in and blow that out of the water and surprise me. But if it was sort of 10, 15 million, I'm in the same boat as this. I'd just keep him for a year because he's still got an awful lot to give. If he can stay fit, he's still got an awful lot to give. And then you just keep him for a year and they'll just let him go on a free at the end of the season. I'm just not like this, like Trevor saying, what's the point in selling for sort of 10, 15 million? Because you're going to have to go out and buy a replacement who would cost more than that. And would they be ready to come in and make the sort of impact Partey would if he can stay fit for the season? No, because Partey's such a good player and he knows exactly what's needed in this Arteta team and how to play in this Arteta team. So I'd keep him and then let him go on a free at the end of the season, I have to say. Aaron says, Charles, I read your exclusive article on Caught Offside. Please do read the article. It's fantastic. Thank you very much. And found the part that Arsenal are looking for a more potent, fieldy, younger striker who can hit the ground running like Sesko. Does this sort of explain why Arsenal being linked with youngsters like João Neves, Jura Hato and Desire Due? All of them are quite young, but they have talent and potential that may help Arsenal get them to the next level. I don't mean all of them will come, but if they do come, they will not be guaranteed starters due to the quality players we have. We can give some time and they might step up to take the starting 11 as well. Not in the exact same direction, but some kind of Saliba type signing might be needed in order to Arsenal to grab the next big talents. It's just the way Arsenal operate. I don't think it's anything new, is it? I think when you look at Nick, you talk about like Neves, Hato and Due, Arsenal, they tend to go for young players. That's just what they do under Arteta and Edu. It's what's made them, brought them a lot of success in the transfer market in recent years. So, as I said, I think there'll be one sort of real big ready-made starting 11 signing in the summer, and I think that will be in midfield, and I think the rest of them will probably be ones that can really add to the squad, still make a big impact with the first team and in the starting 11, but will raise the level of the squad, because I think that's the aim of Arsenal going into this transfer window. And the likes of Neves, Hato and Duet, I'm not saying they're going to sign, but those type of players, if you can get one of them or whatever and add a few more like Sesko, then that is going to immediately raise the level of squad. Going to improve the starting 11 as well, because you're going to use them more and you're going to rotate more. But I think there'll be one big name, maybe not big name. It probably will be a big name, because if he's going to come in and immediately prove this Arsenal starting 11, you're going to have to be a big name, because that's the sort of player that has to improve this team right now. Here's one from, how do you spell that? Rattles, I think it is. Says, hi, Charles. Any thoughts on Jonathan David? He has 1 year left on a low paid contract at Lille, who don't have Champions League next season. He's 24, versatile, never injured, and over 50 goals in his last 2 seasons. Yeah, look, Jonathan David's been an absolute revelation in France. I don't have any news on him and Arsenal being interested. They were interested. I know there were discussions between Arsenal and Jonathan David's camp, but that was a good few seasons ago. I'm talking that was when Raul Sinyehi was leading Arsenal's transfer sort of transfer policy and was talking to people. I know there was definitely conversations there between Jonathan David and Jonathan David's people and Arsenal, but I haven't heard that is that the interest is still there or anything like that. He's been brilliant for Lille. He's going to have a big move in him at some point, if either this summer or next summer. I'm sure his goal scorer record speaks for itself. I saw that. I think Atletico Madrid were the last club that I saw really sort of heavily linked with him. He looks like a really talented player. Again, I haven't watched Lille religiously over the years, or Canada, but he looks like a really good player. He can play out wide. He can play as a central striker, and his goal record speaks for himself. So, maybe one for Arsenal to look at. But as I said, there was interest there a few years ago. I haven't heard that interest still remains when it comes to Jonathan David. Right, and that's it from me, everyone. Thank you very much for watching and for listening. As usual, appreciate your time. I'll be back tomorrow with that pre-recorded show with team news and ticks. Like I said at the start, we're recording that at about 1 o'clock UK time today. It is going out tomorrow, so you haven't got much time if you want to get included in that show. And you're still watching right now, you better get down into the comments, put your question in, and we'll pull some of them together and get them included. Until then, have a great day, everyone. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.